event, especially being we having some weather issues today, so a lot of people from our Sangat couldn't make it. But I'm glad that everybody can make, and you understand the importance of the topic that we all need and recognize in our community, and for our kids who are going to go to the colleges soon, they're not going to be kids anymore, so we're going to talk about it. But before we continue, we always, with our tradition, when we start our session, let's do Nam Jap. You know, we always need to meditate on the name, and let's start with that. Satnam Vaheguru, 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 Satnam Vaheguru. So our first speaker will be Baldeep Khosa. So he's actually a local guy and has about 10 years of experience in successfully managing over 600 million in settled loans and reviewing thousands of credit reports. So the reason we started with him is whenever we don't realize we don't talk about is our credit score. You know? So he's going to talk about that, and especially for some kids who are there who are going to be starting to know. When I was in college, we didn't talk about it. We just kind of learned it. We just kind of like being savvy about it. But there are people I ran into and they said how they made a mistake and couldn't recover for it for a long time. So he's gonna give you the tips, even to the adults who already have it, how we can continue to improve, keep our credit scores good, and why is it important. So I think that's the main thing, and I think I'll give the mic to Baldeep.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Most of the folks that are here, most of you guys know me from my childhood. Prince, I've seen you, Buddy, and some of the members of the board here as well. So I just want to start off by saying thank you for inviting me to speak at Sikhi. And this is the second or third time that I've been at this Gurdwara, but some of you guys know my family as well. Grew up here in Gaithersburg, Maryland, local. Talking about credit scores, I see it on a daily basis, and a lot of times we think about it now, we see first or second generations. Most of us are first or second generation. Our parents or ourselves, we're just here to kind of survive and try to get established in this community. And in doing that, what happens is we kind of forget some of the smaller nuances things that we need to talk about with our kids to help establish them or set them up for the future. I brought my dad here today. He did his best to explain as much as he could. However, most of it was for him to be able to get us established, get us to school, get our studies, and then move forward from there. But in my line of work, I'm technically a mortgage lender. So I see every single time a person's looking to purchase the biggest thing in their life, I see their credit reports, I see their financials, I see what their spending habits are, I see their bank statements, I see everything for a lot of these folks that go through this process. And you see the discrepancies in immigrants versus folks that have been here for quite a long time, that have been established. And it's lucky for us that our families are, middle, upper class, you can say. They've been established in terms of education, which helps us make better decisions financially. We're not just starving to feed ourselves. It's the next level of learning of what we can pass on to our kids. So let's talk about credit reports. The best thing you can do as a parent is to help establish a credit card for your child in the early stages. My mom was smart enough to get me a credit card when I was 15 years old. If you could think about it now, you're probably saying, why the heck does my kid need a credit card at 15 years old? Well, one of the biggest things that credit score does for you is longevity, the history of your credit score is going to have a major impact on how your scores are going to move forward. And it also teaches the kids a sense of responsibility. And we're going to talk about 529 plans and different methods of getting your kids ready for school. And I'll give you a few tips that have worked for me, considering I probably wasn't the best of the kids that was in the group, but as I've gotten older, I've matured and kind of gone through these hurdles. So I'll start off with myself. 25 is when I started really thinking about credit scores, and that's kind of late if you think about the progress. So credit scores, what are they for? So for the kids, you need credit to be able to purchase a car, a house. You may need credit to be able to get a scholarship, or a loan for school. I had to pay for all of my schooling via student loans. I still have student loans for my MBA. And now from what I'm hearing from some of my clients, it's even more difficult for families to get approved for financial aid. So you have to make sure that you yourself as a child and as parents is to set your kids up so that they can have the right credit score to be able to potentially get approved for these loans. They have different style ones from my understanding as well, where the parent co-signs. At my time, it was primarily in my name, and that's it. Luckily for now, mom doesn't have any co-sign loans for us. It's been paid off, but I'm also 37 years old now. So let's talk about credit scores specifically. There are 3 major credit bureaus that have an impact on your credit report. And every single creditor that you see, Bank of America, Capital One, all of these guys report to all 3 of these credit bureaus. And one of the biggest things that impacts your credit scores is on-time payments, credit utilization, and how much credit you actually have, as well as the history. So if we're starting our kids off at an early age of 15 to 17, nowadays there's a lot of tools that you have available to you that can help you set up an auto payment for the kids. We didn't have that when I was younger. So auto payment helps prevent them from going ahead and missing the payments, therefore having a negative remark on their credit report. One missed payment can drop your credit scores by almost 100 points on any of your accounts. 100 points. That means the difference between, let's say for a mortgage, today's rates 7.5% to 6.5%. If we're talking about a $400,000 loan, that's several hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're gonna have to worry about to paying more just because of that credit score. So we wanna make sure that we use the tools that are available to us. There's also now, as Dad just mentioned, CreditWise. Does anybody know what CreditWise is? CreditWise, yeah? Your credit cards nowadays show you what your credit scores are. It was a big thing to find out, hey, you can get your credit score, you can get your credit report once a year for free. That's amazing. You know what it is. What does it tell you? Nothing. It doesn't make sense, right? CreditWise nowadays, on your credit cards, on your kids' cards or your cards, shows you my credit score is this much, and this is what it is relative to others. Excellent, good, bad, whatever it may be. So what you want to do is establish a credit card. My first credit card was $300 with Capital One. $300. I used to keep that $300 full all the time. Make the minimum payments because nobody really taught me. The minimum payments is just interest. So we know that now, but we have to counsel our kids on, if you have a credit card, you want to do a few main things to help prevent from making your scores bad. 1, credit utilization. If you have a credit card, you do not want to charge that credit card up all the way to the limit and then pay it down. Credit cards report once a month, from the 1st to the 18th. And if your balance is full before you make that that payment to that credit card, your scores are going to be reflective of what your previous balance was reported to the credit bureaus. Let's say your payment's on the 15th. Capital One reports on the 8th. That means that the max of what your credit card, the highest balance that your credit card is going to show, is going to be reported to the credit bureaus. Therefore, your utilization is going to show up as high, 90%, 80%, whatever have you. The rule of thumb for good credit scores is for your credit cards to keep them less than 30% utilization. So if you have a $10,000 credit card, parents, you want to keep a balance of less than $3,000. Okay? Kids, you're not going to have a $10,000 credit card. It's probably $1,000. You want to keep that balance less than $300. And if it gets to that point, you can make multiple payments a month. So just keep on pushing towards that. Now, there's stories that I see, or there's clients that I see all the time that go through these credit challenges. Folks talk about bankruptcies, foreclosure. Not a lot of us do these things in our communities, and if they do, it's very quiet. If you get yourself in a significant amount of credit card debt, there are other ways outside of filing for bankruptcy and outside of missing those payments to be able to get yourself help. And that probably will be a 201 course that we have for the next time. But for your purposes as a parent and as a child, is get these kids into some type of financially responsible management tools. So I've had this conversation with my wife several times. Do I want to pay for all of my kids' student loans in the future? All 4 years of credit, all 4 years of students' loans, I want to pay for all of them. Is that responsible? That's going to be up to you guys, but one of the things that I found for myself is give them 1 year on their own name, and that would help teach them. Every single month, I have to go and make this payment. I have to learn to manage my budget. I have to learn that this student loan must be paid along with my rent to be able to ensure that I'll be able to move forward. So that's my one tip for parents with that. The second thing is credit utilization. We talked about the longer the history they have is good. And utilize the tools that we have, auto payment, credit-wise, things of that nature. That's all I really have. If you guys have any questions, concerns, I could try to help answer. Yes, sir.
When you got the first credit card, so what I did was I just added my kid's name to my credit card.
Authorized user.
Yeah, but that doesn't start their history, right?
So it does.
Okay.
Actually, it does. So when you add a person that doesn't have any credit history, you add them as an authorized user, that's going to copy whatever the credit history is on that credit card onto their name. So it's helpful, but that also doesn't really give them the freedom of their own. That's like, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of you, leave them alone, right? You want to say, hey, this is your credit card, you manage it, you need to be able to look at it and you follow them from the back and say, go ahead.
So you said you had it since you were 15, the credit card. Will the companies give a credit card to a kid if they don't have a job? And
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them do. Somehow I got, it was a $300 limit. Capital One gave it to me at that time. I don't know if they still do it. And even if that's not an option, if the credit card companies can't, there's something called a secured credit card. Secured credit card is you give $500 or $1,000 to a credit union, and they say we give you a line of credit in return. So that allows them to say, all right, we already have your money, you're just utilizing that as a revolving account to pay. If you ever miss that payment, we have your $1,000 here as well. So that's another way, if your child is not able to get approved at that age, you can utilize that. Anji?
So that helps them with the credit score?
Yes. Secured credit cards do report to the credit bureaus. It shows on the credit scores that credit report as a secured card, and that's one of the first steps that you can take if they can't get approved for a standard credit card at that time. Yes, sir.
How do you know what date each of the credit cards are reported to the credit bureau balance?
It's tough. I know,
Okay.
I've spoken to several, so we utilize a credit pulling service that tells us, hey, they report from the 1st to the 18th. So what I typically tell my clients is do the opposite. If your payment is due on the 10th, pay on the 25th of the previous month. Okay? Pay on the 25th of the previous month because then it shows that your balance is low by the time that they actually report. Another tip would be call the credit card companies every 6 months and request a credit limit increase. Okay? And hear me out. This is for yourselves more so than the kids. For no reason whatsoever, I don't need it. There's no reason for me to have this credit limit. I have a $100,000 Bank of America credit card limit. For no reason, I've never used anything close to that. But what it does is, my credit limit's $100,000, but I only use $2,000 a month. My credit utilization is 2%. That's good for the credit bureaus. So do it until you feel comfortable. I started getting uneasy. I stopped calling them. I don't need this much credit, but I've done that with, I have probably 7 credit cards. Canceling out credit cards doesn't give you any benefit for your scores. The more credit cards you have, the lower the balance, the lower the usage will help your scores improve. I started off at 25 with a 640 credit score. Today I'm, 10 years later, obviously, 850 or whatever, the 825, whatever it may be. So I saw one more question.
So when you said minimum balance, keep it like 10% or below. So that's if it's a current month going on and it's a $10,000 limit and you have done like $1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to pay it off if you want to spend more, or
It depends. Depends on what your goals are, right? If you're looking at a 750 credit score right now, if you're already at the top tier, doing that doesn't really benefit
that
you,
doesn't matter. Okay.
right? If you're at a 620 and there's certain things that happen in your credit history, you want to start doing that sooner.
Got it.
As you're using the credit-wise to monitor your credit scores, start calling 6 months later. All right, I see my score started at 620, now it's 660, 680. Let me call this credit card company and ask for a credit limit increase. And they'll go ahead and start looking. They'll ask for your income and so on and so forth. These are all typically soft pulls, so it doesn't hurt your credit scores. Oh, another thing, soft pulls. Hard pulls, how much does it really impact your credit scores? Realistically speaking, if you do not get your credit scores pulled more than 12 times over a 12-month period, spread out one time each month, it's not going to have a negative impact on your credit scores. Think about it like this. If you're shopping for a car and you apply with a dealership and they pull 10 credit reports at the same time, that doesn't have an impact. That credit bureaus know that you're shopping for a mortgage rate or interest rate. Same goes for other things. But if you're going January, I pull my credit, February, I pull my credit, March, I pull my credit, June, July, every single month throughout the year you pull your credit once, that's going to hurt your scores. The credit bureaus don't like that, so don't do that. If you're going to shop for a mortgage rate, if you're going to shop for a car rate, do it within a 7-day time frame. That's going to help you. Okay? So
So don't do it staggered, just do it literally 1 week and go to every single one that you need to go to every single car dealership, for example.
Yeah. That's going to get you the best reaction to your scores. What other questions or concerns can I answer?
How hard impact it makes, like if suppose as a business perspective, like I want to rent a space and then the landlord wants to run the credit. So how hard of the credit check, like how impactful will do to me?
Realistically speaking, if we're talking about one credit pull over 12 months, worst case scenario, we're talking about 5 points. Okay? 5 points. Credit scores typically work in buckets, and they usually go from 40-point buckets, starting at 600, moving forward, all the way up to 800. Once you're above 700, the bucket, nothing really makes a difference. If you're at 800, 820, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same in terms of risk for the lender. So, okay. If you guys ever need any help with me, I usually go to GGSF. If you need me to come here and speak again, I'm more than happy to do that. My name again is Baldeep Singh Kosa. My company is Fidelity Direct Mortgage. If you don't know me or you know somebody that's familiar, just feel free to reach out. I'll give just anybody my phone number. He already has it, so you can give me some information. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, you got calls.
What he just said at the end is our motto. We want to be more like mentors. All the speakers who have been here, to our community, especially the kids, and whatever career choice you do make, all the speakers, they're more than happy to answer your career questions. Arvind Ruji is vouch for that. All these everybody speakers, is ready to answer any of your questions. So, thank you, Baldeep. So our next speaker, I'm just trying to make it fast because I know we're all nervous about the snow. So those were great questions and everything. Continue coming. So now we have May Nora. So she's here. She's a regional field director. 3 young kids, and she's a wife. And she worked for the state of Maryland, MBA, for 13 years. Then she started doing life insurance part-time since 2016, now full-time since 2021. So right now she's going to talk about some of the things that can help you with the life insurance aspect, but how can it be used towards your health also? As you know, to me that's very important, being from the healthcare side that I see every day, how people sometimes go bankrupt, because they cannot pay the bills and have to declare bankruptcy. That's how much issue is, and then she can be savvy about it, and we can talk about it. I think I'll let her take over about 10 minutes or so, and the questions after that, I think those are the most important, I think.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here, and I would like to applaud just been there for doing this. This is very important, and I'm so glad that you guys are all here. I agree with what he said about the credit card. I have 3 kids. I actually add them to my credit card. They're just an additional user. And my son, who is 23, has an 800 credit score. He loaned the car by himself and he got the best rate. So adding your children to the credit card actually helps. So I'm actually one of those. I can speak for that because I did it myself, and then it actually really works. I'm not here about credit card. I'm here about what's the use of life insurance and how it can benefit you and your children as well. Not just people knows about life insurance as life insurance when you pass away, the beneficiary will get it. That's the traditional way. I am a mom and I have 3 kids, and I used to work for the state for 13 years. And I started doing life insurance since 2016 as a part-time. And then I focus on this on 2021 as a full-time. Life insurance can do so many things. It's just that the knowing of how to utilize it, and it's just knowing what kind of life insurance is there out there. Life insurance that we have is when you pass away, you can use it. But what about when you get sick? What about when you got terminal illness, cancer? I'm not trying to scare everybody here. I'm just trying to say that we can all prepare for what life can bring you. How can we financially be prepared with the life insurance? The money from life insurance, my dear ladies and gentlemen, life insurance is tax-free when you utilize it properly. So when you get sick, heart attack, stroke, cancer, major organ transplant, you get into accident, you get coma, paralysis, chronic condition, people would buy for disabilities. You can also use your life insurance. But the best part is whenever we need the money. Whenever we need the money, we can utilize life insurance. One of the things that we prepared life insurance is, what about children's education? And that's where I'm trying to share with you right now. When you need money for your children's education, this is actually a lot of slides because we normally do this. The college workshop planning in my office in Rockville. So I can announce it to you guys, give it to you whenever we have the chance. But I'm not gonna discuss the entire thing. I'm just gonna have some information that might be useful for you today. It's gonna be very quick. Of course, we have a disclaimer. I'm not a financial planner, so please consult your tax preparer, your tax accountant for all of this, okay? This is the estimate cost of the college education right now. This is the state of Maryland, so if you're in state, it's going to be the tuition fees alone. It's around $11,000. The total cost for everything, bus transportation, on-campus boarding, around $30,000 a year. But for the non-resident, it's going to be around $60,000. And this is just, thank you. So this is what costs to have a college education right now. What about our children? Our children, of course, the inflation, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, how much is going to be? Are we going to be able to afford it? And that's the next question. I'm not going to, right here, this is based on the U.S. News with the World Report. According to the U.S. Report of Education, the average annual cost of public schools increased 6.5% each every year for the last decade. So now, the total cost of four-year degree will be more than $205,000. Do we have that money? I'm not sure. I never had that. I had 3 kids. I never had that money. I'm not even close to that. So I'm not trying to scare you. This is just something that we all can think about. The million-dollar question is, when is the best time for you to for the kids' education? Anybody has answer for that? Sure. After high school, any more answer? When they're born. Actually, you're right. When they're born. The minute the child is born, you have to prepare for college education. But I have a next question. When is the next best time? The second best time? Anybody answer for the second best time?
Today.
Thank you! Today is the next best time to prepare for college education. So don't worry, you can do that. As a parent, you want college plan only for your children or complete solution? That's my question. That's our question with the life insurance. Protect your children for the good and the bad events in their future. So we know that. We want things for our children, not just college education. So what, this is the good news. Some of the bad news, some injuries, some diseases, right? These are your college choices. Having 529, having the Roth IRA, these are all things in place that you can utilize for your college education. I have another one. For us, is the gift of lifetime, the child protection. When you use the life insurance for everything, the death benefit can be completed college savings plans if wage earner dies. So not just the college plan. So this is tax-free. The cash accumulation in life insurance is permanent life insurance tax deferred as well. And there's a lot of things that we have that we can offer, but I want you to focus on this. This is an immediate debt protection. So no matter what happens, it's not just a college plan. You can use it for anything. It can provide a potential tax deferred accumulation, loans and withdrawals, cash value, and accelerated benefits riders, offer protection if you become seriously ill. So all of this, including college plan, and whenever you need the money. So that's my 10-minute speech about the life insurance and how the college can work, the money that can be used for college plan. So, do you guys have any question, or do you if you wanna learn more about college education using the life insurance, we have our office in Rockdale. You can come to us. And I have some brochures here that I can give away for you guys so that you can learn about more about life insurance. So thank you so much, and everybody have a great weekend.
Do you want me to hand that out?
Oh, sure.
Thank you so much. Talk about being time diligent. Definitely not one of my aspects, but thank you so much for that presentation. So I'm just gonna. So just wanted to make sure I didn't say it in the starting of this. I don't have any affiliations with any companies or anything. I'm just a volunteer, just kind of for the community to be kind of having the knowledge. I just wanted to make that clarify. Just like when we publish papers in medicine, we always have to give like, well, what are my conflicts of interest? So I have no conflict of interest here. So our next speaker right now, I'll ask Dr. Simi Sandhu. And I really want to tell you guys how much I appreciate her being today, because it was supposed to be Amrit Banji, and she came down, her health, like, I think, bad viral. She literally, I told her yesterday, and she prepared a whole talk, and she messaged me at midnight, it's ready. So I know how much I appreciated it, and she knows it. And the reason we chose her, I know I'm kind of digressing, she's a teacher, and she's a great volunteer, and she will tell a little bit more about herself so you can have an idea. So I'm just going to put her presentation up. So.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Dr. Simranjeet Kaur. I'm a Montgomery County Public School teacher. I teach at Damascus High School. I've been a teacher for over 20 years. I first started at Howard County, Howard Community College, and I also taught at some of the area universities, the University of Maryland, and also the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. I also have a little bit of experience in the corporate world. I was a trainer and curriculum developer for the Veterans Affairs, where I created curriculum for the supply chain management for Veterans Affairs hospitals. Totally out of my realm. Obviously, I went back to teaching. And I also run a nonprofit organization called Hands to Inspire. Some of you are aware of that nonprofit organization. We do many different things, basically anything that the community needs, both the Sikh community and non-Sikh community, anything that comes our way, we try to take on those projects. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but it is what it is. And one of the projects that we have been doing is financial aid and scholarships. So when Virji, reached out to me, I have a lot going on in the house right now, but when he reached out, I was like, okay, let's put something together, because I think this is something that our community doesn't really know much about, but it's really, really important stuff. Your scholarships, financial aid. I mean, who wants to go to college and pay when you can get it done for free? Especially with the financial aid that's available, if not through grants and loans, but also through scholarships where it's merit-based. So we at Hands to Inspire have been doing a scholarship program for the last 3 years. We offer scholarships based on memorials of people's lives. So ordinary people that lived extraordinary lives. Some of them are my own relatives. Some people have asked, hey, I want to have a memorial scholarship in my mom's name, so we open scholarships for them. And then one of the other scholarships we had was for Shubdeep Singh, which is Musiwala from Punjab. As you guys know, he was a very big singer in Punjab. And one of the things he used to do as a singer is the money that he would make, he would actually pay for the education for the girls in his village. And so we wanted to kind of keep that momentum going. And another unique thing, and you'll see it in the slideshow, is that our scholarships are open to anybody. So it's high school seniors, undergraduate, graduate, international, and also undocumented, which is very rare. Most people do not offer scholarships to international or undocumented, but we wanted to do something because if you're here to study, why not give the opportunity? So let me jump right into the presentation itself. Basically what I'm going to be doing today is kind of going over the different types of financial aid that's available, the financial aid process, scholarships, and then some tips. So there's 4 types of financial aid that anybody can pretty much be eligible for: grants, scholarships, work study, and federal loans. Okay, I know lots of people are like, well, we want to get away from this. I was a student and I actually have federal loans, and I'm still paying them. But that was the only way I could get my education at a certain point. Lots of people they work. You can get your companies to pay. But if you don't, like my program that I was in the doctorate program at Hood College, it was not covered by Montgomery County Public Schools, so I had to pay basically out of pocket. So that's why I would get a federal loan. So let me talk a little bit about grants. So grants are normally income driven. So depending on your income, you may or may not be eligible, or your child or anybody you know may not be eligible or may be eligible for a grant. I've helped a couple of people within our community in the last couple of years to get grants, and it's important to just do it because you never know, you might get it. The people that I've worked with have actually gotten their whole university and community colleges paid for through grants and their book money, so it's worth trying. But to do this, basically, you don't have to pay back grants. That's like the beauty of grants. Scholarships, grants, you don't have to pay them back. But you do have to fill out what is called a FAFSA. You're in college? Yeah.
I just graduated.
You graduated, okay. Right. So for those of you who are aware of this, the FAFSA form, you just fill out this form. It's a little bit intimidating because it's kind of long, but it's well worth it because you could be eligible for a grant. You never know. So there's state grants, institutional grants, and then each grant program has its own, kind of what their expectations are, what they're looking for. So again, grants are not paid back. And then there's work study. So if you're in college or a university, you can apply for work study. That's also based on what is the outcome of your FAFSA form. So the FAFSA form basically says, this is my income, this is how much money I have, this is how much I can invest in my education or my child's education, I need your help or I don't need your help. And if you need your help, then they can provide you with an opportunity to work study. And just as the name says, you're working and you're studying at the same time. And again, this is not money that you've paid back, this is money that you just received. So it's actually a positive thing too. And kids, you know, when you're in college, you actually gain a lot of experience doing this because you work somewhere on the campus usually. Loans, okay, like I said, some people are hesitant to the loans because you got to pay interest. I think my interest is like 6.99%. So your interest, and there's different types of loan programs that you're eligible for. Because of my income, I was not eligible for like a lesser, I guess, interest loan. So that's why my interest is so high. But there's different types of loan programs. And I know this is usually not the go-to. People are like, okay, we'll do the grants, we'll do the scholarships. This is my last resort. But unfortunately, in the time that we live in, if you need it and you want the education, sometimes this is what you need to do. For me, that's what I needed to do. Scholarships is what people really look for. So what I really like about scholarships is scholarships can be merit-based. So that's basically saying, hey, you know, my child has done community service, my child participates in competitions like Girpa, for example, she's done speech competitions, she's done youth and competitions. You can show all that stuff and you can apply for scholarships on that basis. It doesn't have to be just like a, you know, one thing. They're looking for overall people, you know, that overall achievement. So with there's different types of scholarships. Need-based is basically if you need it. Our scholarships at Hands to Inspire are need-based and merit-based. So if we see that the child is doing very well in academics and also needs it for financial reasons, those are the kind of applicants that we look for, okay? But there are some that, even if you don't need the money or you don't have to fill out the FAFSA, you can still get that money. You're still eligible for that money. I know lots of kids. One of the kids that got a scholarship through our organization went to Yale. She's now gotten chosen to go to England to do an internship in law. So, you know, and that was merit, but she also financially needed it. She didn't have parents. She was actually an orphan. And so she applied for the scholarship based on merit and financial. And these are often competitive. So if you have that competitive drive where you want your child, you know, you want your child to succeed in different areas, or you want to kind of showcase what your child has, this is definitely something that you can do. It's one thing that I've noticed with a lot of our parents are, they think that if they're getting the money, that it's like a weakness. And I want to tell you that getting a scholarship or getting a grant or getting any type of financial aid is never a weakness. If anything, like I said, when I tell somebody I paid X amount of money for college and they tell me, oh, well, I didn't have to pay at all. I would rather be that person than be the person I am right now. So we should look at these things not as a weakness or, you know, it shows that, oh, you don't have the finances to do so, but rather that you know, are getting something that's going to last for the rest of your life that's essentially free. So the financial aid process, how do you get the grants, how do you get the work study, how do you get the scholarships, starts from this. Everyone's got to fill out the application for student aid, and that's FAFSA. If you go online, you can get the website. Some of you are young, so you can tell your parents about the FAFSA. Some of you may already know about it. Once you fill out the FAFSA, it gives you the information based on your income. That information then goes to the college that you apply to, whether it be a community college or a university. And then they look at that, and then based on that, the government will either give you a grant, you'll be eligible for a grant, you may be eligible for scholarships, work study, and then financial loans as well. Okay, so here's the web address here, FAFSA. And again, there's nothing wrong with just applying for it. I know a lot of people are even hesitant to even applying to the FAFSA. Like I said, I've helped probably maybe 4 students that have filled out the FAFSA, was eligible, and got their education paid for through the University of Maryland College Park, University of Maryland Baltimore County, and then some of them went to community college, one went to Towson University. So filling this out will always have some benefit, okay, whether you're eligible or not, okay? For example, for our process, for our scholarships, everybody must apply for FAFSA. We need to see everybody's income because it's also income driven. However, if you are an undocumented immigrant in this country or an international student, you cannot fill that out. So they just let us know. We keep everything confidential, and again, our purpose is to help these kids to get their education that they want, because they're here in the States to do so. So what you need for it, again, lots of people look at FAFSA and they're like, I'm not filling out this long form because it takes too long and I really don't have the time. There's only a few things that you need, and once you start the process, it's less intimidating. But your social security number, your tax returns, and then any untaxed income you may have, and then your FS8 ID, which you would get online. But the main thing here is, when you look at this, is they're just looking at what your income is. The government has lots of money, so why not take advantage of that money and get your education paid for? So it's just as simple. These are the things you need. You enter it, and you don't try to smudge the truth. And what I mean by that is, whatever your income is, just report it, because they will come back and they'll say, hey, we found this in your record, and then you might not be eligible for anything after that. So being truthful and just laying out what you have. All right, so another thing that you can do is fill out, there's a college board, right here, I have this website up here. This is really great because you can go online and register for this, and this basically goes out, this basically is something that most of the universities and colleges require when you're applying for any type of grant or financial aid program. I'm not very familiar with this. Is a newer program from when I've worked with people, but definitely I would check it out. I checked it out last night, and like they start offering it October 1st, and I think the deadline's February 17th. And then this is just something that, you know, supports your FAFSA and your college and your process for grants and scholarships and loans. So with scholarships, again, they're free. Usually they're offered by some type of organization or an individual, like ours, Hands to Inspire. We offer scholarships. And it's, you know, really based on, it could be based on your merit, it could be based on income. We do both. We do merit-based and income-based. The main thing is it's free. So why not try? I've had students that have gotten full scholarships to universities, top universities, Duke University, Yale, Harvard. You just apply for it because you never know. And you can be millionaires, and if it's not income-based, your kid can still be eligible for it. There's no weakness in trying it, is my main selling point. So again, the types of scholarships, merit-based or need-based. Okay, if there's an athletic achievement, or if you are in a specific career path, for example, as educators, I'm an educator. If you're a special education major, you can probably be eligible for more types of scholarships, STEM, science, technology, okay? And then some of them also, you need a specific GPA. So you can't just have like a lower GPA. Again, that pushes your child too to do better in school. We want to promote and push our kids to do better, and getting a scholarship because of their merit is also it's a key factor. So things that you can do to get a scholarship, one is start small. If you're in high school, or if your kids are going to college or in the process, you should be starting this probably in 11th grade, if not 10th. This is something that you should start very early on, start looking for those scholarships. Most of them are still going to be offered when your kids get into college. Another program for those of you who have daughters, if they are in 11th grade, there's a program called the Distinguished Young Women's Program. I believe that's what it's called. I worked with this program a couple of years ago, and you can get full ride scholarships to elite universities in this country. It's a process. If you need anything, you guys can email me and I can give you that information. You have to join in your junior year, and they teach you different strategies of interviewing, and then they have a scholarship process, and you can get scholarships to pay for everything. Okay, so where can you find these things? You can find them at your high school, college, university. If your parents are working, maybe they have a union or an association that may be offering, local organizations such as mine, Hands to Inspire, or even on the internet, and I'll provide here's some resources that you have. This last resource, Amrit had provided, it has got a lot of stuff in there. So you can go on there. There's a live scholarship opportunities. And then here are some of the other websites that you can just kind of click on to learn about. One thing for sure, if anyone's asking you for money for a scholarship, for an application fee, then don't pay it. It's more than likely a scam. Like our scholarships, anybody can apply at any time. We don't charge anything for applying. Okay, so please, you should never ever pay for it. Again, things that you should be looking for or expect from an application: your basic contact, grade point average, extracurricular activities. For those of you who have kids that are young, starting in high school, put them in extracurricular activities. That doesn't mean that they've got to be in every sport, where we've gone, I think, a little bit too much with that too, where we enroll our kids in every single thing and then we advertise that they have this day and this day. You don't need to put them in everything, but you should have some extracurricular activities. Focusing on community service. For 6, that's one of our biggest things is SEVA. So they don't have to be all the time playing a sport, but why not enroll them in something where they're doing something for the community? That's going to outweigh everything else. Me personally, when our board looks at the scholarship applications, we look specifically at community service. It's great if you have the different sports, but we're looking at what you do for the community and how you're serving. Letters of recommendation. Starting in 8th, 9th grade, get letters of recommendation for your kids. Tell them to go to their teachers and ask. Help the teacher out, and then go. I've had kids come to me all the time asking for letters of recommendations. I have letters of recommendations from when I was in 10th grade. So you can use them. It might be like, well, this is outdated, but it really doesn't matter, okay? Because that just shows your character. And as a matter of fact, if you think about it, the earlier you start, it builds your character. You want year after year after year that your child have a strong letters of recommendation, so you can kind of prove, hey, this is my child in 8th grade, and look how my child improved, and look where they are today. Okay, so we want to show that kind of stuff. A personal statement. If anybody ever needs help with personal statements, please, you can give my name. I can help those out. But these are I have kids all the time saying, hey, can you look at my personal statement? This just tells who you are. You're selling yourself. You want to make sure you're telling everyone who you are. And then your SAR report, this is something from FAFSA. So after you complete the FAFSA form, they throw this stuff out and they say, hey, this is your form telling how much income you have and how much you're eligible for. And then, of course, your transcript, whether it be high school or college. This is our scholarship program. We usually like I said, offer scholarships in remembrance of extraordinary members of our community. 4 of the scholarships that we have is in honor of the late Bibi Taranjit Kaur. As you guys know, Miss Kaur is my sidekick. She's not here today. She teaches special ed, and one of her students attacked her. So she has an arm that's pretty much damaged, but that's her mom. And we opened the scholarship in honor of her life, Bibi Taranjit Kaur. Next to her is Bibi Barjit Kaur Sarai, that's my grandmother, my Naniji. Shubdeep Singh Sidhu or Sidhu Musewala, and Sardar Maluk Singh Sandhu, which was my dada. So we try to do different scholarships on different people's names. Again, if you have a loved one that you want to honor, we would love to showcase their name. And one of the great things is about our scholarships, it's open to everybody. And most of our scholarships have gone to non-Sikhs. And they get to see these pictures and they get to learn about their lives, they get to learn about Sikhi, they get to learn about our culture as well. All scholarships are merit-based and income-based. Applicants must complete the FAFSA, and our scholarships, again, are open to high school seniors, undergraduates, graduates, international students, as well as DACA students. So DACA students, I don't know if the program is going to still exist, but if it does, we will definitely offer. So those are our programs, and I think this was my last slide that I had. Are there any questions? I think I kind of went fast, but there's a lot of information, and again, I'm always available by email or by call, or if you want me to stop by, I don't mind stopping by just to talk to one-on-one if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, first of all. The letters of recommendations that you mentioned, if we start collecting them now, that's just more for our reference to see how we progress, or could we use something out now 4 years later for an application?
That's an excellent question, and my personal experience, I've used mine. So when I was in 10th grade, I started collecting, probably 9th or 10th grade, I started collecting letters of recommendation, and I still remember I went to College Park to apply for the education program. My grade point average wasn't that great at that time, but I wanted to get into an education program, so I took my portfolio. Start creating a portfolio for your children. with these letters of recommendation, for example. I had a portfolio with different letters from dated back 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. I went to the advisor at the University of Maryland and I said, look, I may not be that great with academics, but I have a passion for teaching. Here are my letters of recommendation. The advisor sat there and read them. And he said before I left, he said, you know what? I want you to go home. I want you to apply. I want you to give me your confirmation number. I want you in my program. Because these are the kind of teachers we need. That was all because of him. That was a huge, huge blessing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just got in. And I did get in. So to answer your, in short, yes. Not only for yourself, but you never know when they can use these letters of recommendation. You never know. And start early. The earlier, if they're doing something in the community, and you get a letter, why not use that letter? And when they apply for college, or they apply for a scholarship for anything, just say, this is my portfolio. This is another thing that we can talk about next time, is creating those types of portfolio. I've kept my observations as teachers, or the little things that the kids make me, the little cards or whatever. Keep everything in one binder, and I take this to my interviews, and I said, this is me as a teacher. It's a great question. Any other questions about scholarships, financial aid? Okay, so just real quick before I go, like I said, we are Hands to Inspire. Some of the programs that we work on are scholarship programs. We also do community projects. We do a weekly class called Leading Through Gurbani. We've now started other sessions where we're doing any different types of good blues that happen. We're doing specials on those. We also set up galleries in various gurdwaras, so we are open to doing that. Everything, again, what we do is 100% seva. We don't want anything in return. We just want to educate and help people learn about Sikhi and help people if we can. Another project that we have been working on in Montgomery County are for single women who have children. We try to mentor them and we help them with basic necessities for their babies. You can check us out on the website, which is handstoinspire.org. It's not the greatest website, I'll be honest, but I'm trying to juggle my professional career and this, so it's kind of hard. But thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. If you ever need me, just holler at me.
And I think as you all are seeing, there's a sign-up sheet. So it has email. The reason I actually started, I realized you may want all those links, So what I can do is anybody who's interested and want those links that you just shared, I know it was very fast, so I can email and forward that if that's okay.
Yes, definitely.
So that will be, that's why I'm collecting that. So this way I can forward these slides to you guys if anybody who needs it, Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Now we have, first of all, thank you so much so far. This was a great talk, and it was the last minute, so it was double super benefit. Give me 1 second. So now we have Andrew Matt. So he's from Maryland 529 Plan. I really appreciate him coming all the way down, and especially there was chances of, the snow could have been earlier, so it was a huge kind of risk he took. So I appreciate that, him coming and just kind of giving you first-hand knowledge about Maryland 529 Plan, because we always wonder about this, especially in college investment, and they're handing it out to your flight already. So hopefully you didn't mind. So this way, you guys can follow through. He has some slides, so I'll put that up. And you can ask him questions. Here is, I'll let him start.
Yeah. I usually don't mic up, but I think today I will just go ahead and do that. I have 5 kids, so usually my yelling voice is plenty loud. Morning, everybody. Listen, I really appreciate the invite. The state really tries to get around the community and talk to people about college savings. And I'm just going to tell you at the outset here, I'm not a sales guy. Maryland's goal is to just bring awareness to how important savings is and to offer a vehicle for savings. And what I want to do, because do I still have the same minutes? Hopefully I've got like 15, 20 minutes or so. What I want to do is talk about 529s for a minute. But I'll tell you, I've been doing this part-time for a long time. And so I've picked up some stuff along the way. And the beauty of what we're doing this morning is, I believe the gentleman that's following me is in financial services, right? Oh, and that's great because a lot of what he's going to say is going to dovetail on what I'm telling him, and a lot of what I'm going to say is building on what the last person said. So that's going to be great. All right, so I don't want to read off the slides. That's not really my thing. But I do have a couple that I want to share. So 529 is nothing big or scary or fancy. Most of us know about 401ks and 403bs and that sort of thing. And that's for retirement. So 529 is really kind of like that, but for college savings instead. It's a federally developed program. And there are hundreds of billions of dollars in assets in 529s now. It's been around for probably, I don't know, 25, 30 years. I've been doing this for 24-ish. So, and it's gotten to the point now where I go back and I'm not really clear on whether it's 23, 24, 25 years because it's hard to trace at this point. But anyway, the point of that was, and I keep walking back and forth across my camera here, is 529 is nothing to be scared of. It's just a college savings like 401k is to retirement. To that end, Maryland has the College Investment Plan. You can see our logo there. It is managed by T. Rowe Price. If you know T. Rowe Price, they are a locally owned financial services firm with a very conservative management strategy. I like them. I live in Pennsylvania personally, but I have all of my 529s through Maryland because I like T. Rowe Price. They are Morningstar Silver rated. They have done for retirement, for college savings plans, what they've done for retirement plans, and I'll explain that here. I'm going to stop here for just 1 second because I helped develop this graphic, so I'm a little proud of it. But what it does is, and it goes back to what she was saying a moment ago, if you're saving in advance, then you're putting in this much, and then you get these kinds of earnings. And if you're taking out loans, then you're putting in all of that, and you've got to pay the rest of that in interest, and we're trying to avoid doing that. So thank you to me for helping put that together. The next one that I want to land on, I got to scroll through. This is a PDF, so I got to scroll right through here. Okay, perfect. So, nothing complicated about saving in a 529. All right, it's after-tax money, first of all. 401ks tend to be pre-tax. This is after-tax, all right? So you're going to be making, the way I handle it, and you can write a check to us and just call it a day. But the way I handle it is I have automatic checking account deductions coming out of my checking account because if I don't see the money, I don't spend the money, right? So what T. Rowe has done is they set up these dated portfolios. I'm a big fan of dated portfolios. The farther away the time horizon for when your child's going to go to school, the more aggressive, denoted by yellow, the more aggressive those portfolios are. That's good, because if your time horizon is a significant distance away, then you have some time to take on a little bit of investment risk in exchange for the promise of getting better returns. But as that time gets closer, you want to be less and less aggressive because you, as generally, are less willing to take on the risk associated with perhaps the greatest return opportunities. So you'll want to balance it, and as the time comes, you're going to want to be mostly in bonds and conservative funds. T. Rowe Price does all of this automatically for free. It's called auto rebalancing. They automatically do it. Just to give you an idea, when I started doing this, like 2027 wasn't even the latest portfolio. There was a 2024 at that time. So they really have done the job. If you don't like dated portfolios, that is fine. We are perfectly good with that. We also have other portfolios, some that are fixed, some that are balanced, some that are conservative. If you get into something and you don't like it, that's okay. You can swap it out. Now, we're not day trading here, right? This is savings. So I think it's once a year. It depends on the legislation at the time. Once a year, you can swap out between them if you want to be more aggressive or less so or whatever else it is. I should also point out Now, you can have more than one portfolio. You can have more than one account. And I tell you that to launch into this next point, which is why would I want to be in a 529 versus any other college savings? And listen, I'm all about college savings. Really, to me, whether it's a 529 or an UTMA or an UGMA, something like that, is not as important as just being saved. That's a bad choice of words. As saving for college. But it's important to understand that in college savings, there's a lot more to the picture than just college savings, all right? And I'm going to dovetail into that in just 1 second. Let's talk about the tax benefits real quick, all right? 529 is developed by the federal government. So if you are putting principal in, that's after tax, we talked about that. You don't pay tax on that again. But your earnings are tax, they call it tax deferred because some people buy a boat with the earnings and you don't want to do that. If you're using the money for college, as long as it's an accredited school, as long as those expenses are qualified, then the earnings are tax free. May not seem like a big deal the day you start in a 529 when you put in your first $100 or whatever. It doesn't make a lot of difference. But if you're in a 529 for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and your money, your dollar cost averaging, so you're putting money in every month, and it's the principal's growing like this, that's growing like this, and the market historically grows at about 8%, has good years and bad years, I get it. But if you're going up 8%, 8%, 8%, those earnings start compounding, everything's building up on top of another, all of a sudden you're going to get to a place where your principal is this, and your earnings are this. And you don't pay tax on that, as long as it's a qualified expense at an accredited college. Where do you find that information? I'm going to tell you, and it's counterintuitive, but you can go to irs.gov, irs.gov, yep. Use their search engine, find their list for qualified expenses. It does change. Laptops, when I started doing this, laptops were not even really a thing. 15 years from now, laptops will not be a thing. So that list does change. You're going to keep an eye on it. Also, accredited schools, most schools are accredited. It doesn't mean better or worse, it just means follows a specific curriculum type, all right? But not all schools are. My undergrad school was Grove City College out in Western PA. Great school, saved me $10,000 on my MBA. Great school. Not accredited. Did not accept federal funds, it still doesn't. Does not accept student loans, does not accept 529s. Make sure that school is accredited. Don't make that your only basis for a decision, but make it part of your list. Another thing, the government does not care how many streams of income are coming in towards college savings. So, grandparents, aunts and uncles, relatives, they don't care. Let there be 50 portfolios coming in for your child's savings, that's fine, right? At the state level only, if you are a Maryland resident, and you are DC, and you have a Maryland income, and you're in our plan, then you can take, I'll go slowly through this because it takes me a minute, then you can take up to $2,500 per account per child off of your adjusted Maryland gross income. So let's go through that one more time. Maryland only, not federal. If you have a Maryland income, or DC, and you live in Maryland, then, and only then, you can take up to, so if you put $500 in, you can't take $2,500 off. So I got that back. Yep. Now I got the laptop back. There it is. Up to $2,500 off per child. So if you've got 2 children and they each have a 529, that's how much? $5,000 per account. Because we have people that want to be in a fund like this and also hedge their risk by being in something like this at the same time. No problem with that. per account per child off your adjusted Maryland gross income. So those are your benefits with being in the Maryland College Investment Plan specifically. Those tax-free earnings we're talking about is any 529, it doesn't matter, but that one is us specifically now. I want to just talk for a minute. How much time do I have left? 10 minutes? 5? Let's call it 10? Okay, great. I can talk for hours, all right? My kids will tell you. I mean, we go to Myrtle Beach and I spend the entire time talking and they're sleeping. So, I just want to share some things that I've picked up over the years that are not going to be on any of these slides, so I'm not even going to try. But things like this. How much money should I put into college savings? And that is an individual question because, as she alluded to, many, I think the last time I looked it was 2/3, of kids have some kind of financial assistance when they go to college. Scholarships, grants. I can't even tell you how important the FAFSA form is. And listen, I have one child in college at the moment. She's going to Coastal Carolina. And she fills out her FAFSA herself because it's not all that hard. And all I have to do is sign off on it as a parent. Fill out your FAFSA. I'll tell you why. Because I assumed, because when I was a kid, my parents had next to nothing and I couldn't get any scholarships whatsoever. I assumed that we could not get any kind of financial aid. So because I go to Liberty University for a totally different program, just a supplemental education. So I filled out the FAFSA for myself. I always do. It only takes 5 minutes. They say an hour, it's like 5 minutes. And I was offered a, granted small, Pell Grant to contribute to my education. And I attribute that to the fact that Pearl, who is a dependent, is also in college. Okay? So fill out that FAFSA. Do not do anything fraudulent. There is no gray area when it comes to the IRS and the FAFSA. They will track you down. However, if you've got more than one person in college, especially then, make sure that you're doing everything you can to go after grants, to go after scholarships, because 2/3 of our kids, including Pearl, have financial assistance when they go to college. Colleges are competing for our kids. I've told people, have a list of like 3 or 4. Make sure most of them are accredited, they don't all have to be. Apply to all of them. Even if your child has one in particular that they have their heart set on, apply to 3 or 4. Then, if the one that she wants happens to be in the pool offering a scholarship, but you still got to cough up some money, call that school and say, it's like buying a car. Call them and say, we love your school. We want that opportunity, but we have competing offers. Would you be willing to go a step farther? They won't always. They might. Okay? Very important. Second, don't mess with the IRS. We talked about this thing where you can have, an account, more than one account per student. You can have accounts for multiple students. You can do all this stuff, and that's all great. But what you don't want to do is try to take advantage of the fact that these earnings are tax-free by just indefinitely holding money in a 529, hoping that nobody's ever going to notice. There is a time frame in which these funds have to be used after graduation from high school. Right? Now, the specifics change a little bit from time to time, and that's why you want to have, and I'm not going to try to add, because I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not pushing anybody's agenda here. But even I, with my MBA, thinking I know it all, still have a guy that I talk to about my financial stuff, and here's why I do that. 2/3 of kids have some financial assistance when they go to college. What do you think the percentage is for those of us that are going to have to retire? Nobody's coming to our aid, are they? So, your financial guy can take a look at your income broadly, tell you how much really is discretionary, split that amount up between, think of it as a pie. Split it up between college savings, very important. Don't let any of this detract you from college savings. Retirement, very important, and usually you can get free money from a company match or whatever if you're doing that. Elder care, emergency fund. All of these things have to come out of that same pool of discretionary funds that you have left after you pay your bills and stuff like that, right? That changes every year, right? Because when you're young, retirement is down there a ways, and certainly college is a little bit closer. But when you're my age, I'm not going to tell you what that age is, but I can just tell you, if I've been doing this for 25 years, and you know this, getting up there. Retirement is looming, and college savings is in progress. So that pie that we were just talking about, we're splitting all this up into slices and whatnot, that's going to change over time, and your financial guide's going to have to be able to look at that, run the calculations, offer you some alternatives, and say, how do you want to approach this? Because there's a lot of individual pieces to that pie, all right? All right, so what did we do here? We talked about the importance of college savings. We dovetailed a little bit on the prior presentation by acknowledging how important scholarships and grants are, how important college savings is, and like I said, we do college investment plan. That's great, we love you. If you decide that something else is better for you, that's fine. The state just wants you to be aware that these things are available. I still talk to people who didn't know there was ways to save for college. All right? We talked about the tax benefits. We talked about that Certero pricing to do these fancy portfolios, some of which are dated. And I'm just scrolling back up there. Yep, my fancy graphic. We talked about some what ifs, IRS.gov. People can, family members can also invest in your child's education. We talked about, 2/3 of kids having assistance, but that doesn't take away from the importance of applying for grants and scholarships, because I did it and we actually were entitled to money that I didn't know we were. Let's see, I have this information up here, which I think went out to everybody, but I'm going to leave some up here. It has a QR code that'll take you right to our website. I'm not a huge fan of QR codes myself, but it wasn't my call. And other than that, I think we're pretty much there, so I can take questions.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is there a limit how much you can put in the college savings plan?
Okay, great question. So, there is a limit. It is much higher than I'm ever going to have. At the last time I looked, it was something like $250,000 in principal. Now, if it grows past that, that's okay, but you can't put in more than that. That number varies because of, first of all, like things like inflation, but it also varies because sometimes the legislative environment is more or less favorable to 529s than at other times. So that's yes, there is a limit. It's quite high, but you'll want to check with your advisor type of folks just to make sure that that amount hasn't changed over the years.
Would that be available on the website?
It should be on the website, yeah. It should be. QR coded. Our website was just redone maybe a year or so ago. It's pretty user friendly. It has links over to T. Rowe Price. I'm an analyst kind of guy, so I've linked over there before, run their calculators for how much money I need to save, how much that means per month, how much I need to save for retirement, how much that means per month. I've done all that stuff. T-Rowe's linked. Also, it links to the site that handles all of our contributions and distributions. I tell you that to tell you this. It is very easy to get your money out of the college investment plan. I've done it lots of times. We as the state are not speaking for the state, we as the state are not responsible for whether those distributions are qualified or not. You will see a pop-up box that says, is this qualified or not? Make sure that if you click yes, that you keep all of those receipts that you use that money on, not because we ask for it, but because if you're audited, the IRS is going to ask for it, and you better be able to show that you use that money for qualified distributions. Yes?
So what happens if your kid has gotten a scholarship and you also put the money in there?
Great question. Great question. So, and I bounced off of this myself. So, the takeaway is there's a lot of different ways to use 529 money and keep it in 529s. Because if you go outside of 529s, that's when you pay taxes on the earnings. You don't want to do that. Although now there's a provision to roll a certain amount into a Roth IRA. That's a whole different topic. We're not going to go into that today. That's 201. However, the money that you save for your child, let's say there's more than one child, you can roll the money to the other child. Let's say the scholarship covers all of undergrad, but typically speaking, they won't cover grad school. You can use the money for grad school. You use your professional. My brain is 2 steps ahead of where my mouth is. So you can use it for professional school. You can use it there's a lot of technical schools that have accreditation. You can use it for yourself. I, for a long time, had a 529 for myself because I was in a degree program that my employer wouldn't cover some of the classes, and I used it for that. Lots of ways to move that money around to make sure that you use it for a qualified college expense. Pearl's in a great situation right now that her tuition, she has a full scholarship. She's living in the house that I own in Myrtle Beach, so she doesn't have to pay room and board. She's going to have money left over, probably, since she got a 4.0 last semester. Hey, probably. And that money will probably either go to her brother, who's 14, or it'll go towards her grad and med school, or we'll split it up accordingly somehow to make sure that everybody's covered.
So it can be transferred to the siblings?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. And it's easy.
And to yourself as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it's not hard. Not hard. You simply would go on the website, you can change the beneficiary of the account. What you're going to find is that there's an owner that's always in control of that money, so that would be you. Then there's a beneficiary to that ownership, so if something happens to you, then somebody else takes ownership. Right? I don't know who that would be. And then if there's an account beneficiary, who's scheduled to receive the money for for their college, and in this case, it's Pearl. But that person can be changed. It's in their under social name, and you can just change the social security number and the beneficiary. Again, they'll be doing it every day, but if I would not have any, it is not a gray area to me, if your child finishes their undergrad degree and you change that beneficiary to the next child, if the IRS is sitting across the table from me, I got no problem explaining that. Yes?
Do we need to declare 529 in FAFSA? And
Yeah.
does that negatively impact on the grants or scholarships?
Short answer, yes. Here's a long answer. Yes, you have to put it in your FAFSA. However, a lot of people believe that when you put, and you can probably back this up, a lot of people believe that when you put money like that in your FAFSA form, that if, say, you put in $50,000, then that reduces the amount that you can receive by $50,000. That's not how it works. It is way less proportionate than that. And there are a lot of other factors that go into deciding, like I told you, because I take college courses and Pearl take college courses, that opened it up a little bit for us to get, a grant. It's not a huge grant, but it's something. Takeaways. Don't fudge it. Make sure. I mean, if it's 55,000, you put in 52, then nobody's going to argue with that. But if you've got 529 money, don't just not put it in there. And also, remember it's okay to put it in there because it's not a proportionate dollar for dollar difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Will this money be used out of state?
Yes, excellent point. And I used to get that question all the time, by the way. Because the other 529 that we used to operate, you could only go to the state system schools, and then if you went to a different school, you made a weighted average toward that school. But that's not how this works. The College Investment Plan is managed by T. Rowe Price. You can use in any accredited college in the country. Got to be accredited, but we talked about that, right? IRS.gov. I would even tell you, and I don't know the details, it's probably a 301 thing, but there are schools outside our country that have affiliations with schools inside our country, and even those count. Pearl actually is looking for schools in Japan right now that are affiliated because she wants to study abroad. She's in honors college and she wants to go study abroad for a semester, and the school pays for it if she does. Sir?
When you use for living expenses other than the tuition?
Anything that's qualified. So that's tuition, it's room and board. It is generally a laptop. It wasn't for a year or two, but usually it is. Got to keep an eye on that IRS.gov website. Books, lab fees. What did Pearl use hers for last semester? I thought was kind of. I think it may have just been chem. She's a biochem major, so she had technology fee. That's what it was, and that's pretty new because it used to be, you went down to the bookstore and you bought $500 worth of books, and at the end of the semester they offered you $25 to take them back or whatever it was. And so now I've got a huge wall of ancient, obsolete college books because I refuse to sell them back for pennies on the dollar. Anyway, neither here nor there. Now schools do a technology fee, which gives you access to all of your resources. You don't have to go buy them from the bookstore, generally speaking, and it covers that too. That's why I say, 10, 15 years from now, when our youngest, because my youngest is 10, when she's going to school, some of this stuff that we're talking about now, there's not going to be any such thing. People aren't going to be using laptops. They're not going to the bookstore and buying physical books 8 times out of 10 right now. It's going to be 10 out of 10 pretty soon. Like, keep an eye on those things. Generally speaking, 529s are super flexible in how that works. Other questions? Yes?
You mentioned that the newer plans allow you to go to our state school.
Yes.
So that's, if you had a plan 10 years, they
So-
started 10 years ago. Does that automatically?
Yeah, well, and the investment plan's been around for it's been around since I've been around. So, yeah, not an issue there. What I'm speaking of specifically is the college trust. It is a plan that we technically still operate, but it is not open to new entrants. So if you have been around a while and you've been in a 529 for a while and you're making payments over time with the promise that the state is going to pay whatever the tuition is down the road, that you're paying the tuition rate up front. If that sounds familiar to you, you may be in our trust. You want to check that. And in that case, and in that case only, then if you go to one of the state system schools, we pay whatever the tuition is. It's not really meant for room and board. It's not meant for other expenses. It's really a tuition thing. And if their child goes to a different accredited school, that's okay too. But we pay a weighted average of those state schools' tuitions towards that school's tuition. So if that's you, then I would definitely call, just so you can get the specifics of your specific situation. Wow, say that 5 times fast.
And having that trust plan does not stop us from getting a new.
Oh no. And in fact, it used to be a lot of people would get the trust because it's pretty low risk, because the state's taking all the risk, really. And they would do the trust in order to handle the tuition piece of it. That way they knew that was done. And then they would open an investment plan account to handle things like room and board and fees and those kinds of odds and ends. You're welcome. Anybody else? I really, really appreciate, I just love this kind of presentation where I've got people I can build on, and I got folks coming after me that are going to build on what I say. Thank you for having us. I hope we can come back, and I'm going to hand the mic back over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So that was Andrew, and appreciate it coming all the way here. So I think continuing to the next, I will just take a moment and actually I want to, because I get a lot of questions because being in the medical field, how do you get in medical school? Like I remember we had different times. So actually up in there, he just, gone through the whole process. He got into medical school, here at University of Maryland actually. And so he volunteers, like anybody has any questions, please, more than happy to point it towards me and he'll be more than happy about the process he went through. Exactly, because I did it almost 15 years ago. So time is flying, but just anybody who needs and has questions in your field, anybody you know, the pin their here. So I'll give you.
So yeah, I just went through the whole process, just got a few acceptances. I have decided on a school that I'm going to, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. I can kind of go over like the basics that sort of applies to everyone, and any like postgraduate programs that someone's looking out to. I'll stress over the extracurricular activities that some people have touched on before. I think those are really important. It comes to a point where everyone's sort of a cookie cutter applicant. Everyone has the stats, everyone has got good grades. It's what sets you apart. So I would talk about, if you're applying to any sort of graduate school, I would talk about those things. That includes sports, it includes doing kirtan at the Gurdwara. If you're tutoring people, talk about that. Also looking at for any other things that interest you, that might be, I did something called Turks for Change at Maryland. That's my undergraduate school where I went. And we just went and assisted some farmers who produce foods in the area. So that's something that I put on my application, and some of the schools actually talked to me about it. They were like, that's pretty interesting. What made you interested in that? And I talked about Sikhi continents. We talk about food, we do langar, and how that relates to that. So, anyone has any questions?
Just, you'll reach out, I'll send you, if you send me the email, or I'll forward that.
All right, thank you.
So I'll ask Chris now, who also graciously agreed. Oh, sorry. There was a question. All right.
It's just achieving each extra activities, like for example, my son is playing basketball, so he has to get that level to showcase his application or just play the basketball.
Anything that he does, any activity for passion, just for sports, I would talk about it. I came here when I was 15, so I wasn't into basketball much. I started playing cricket as a kid in India. I talked about cricket on my application. And the schools, actually, the 3 schools that I interviewed at, the first 3 schools, they all asked me about it. One of them even asked me, like, hey, if you come here, we want you to open up a club for people who play cricket. So those are, like, anything that you think is little, it's not. That's what sets you apart. Anything that makes you unique, I would talk about it. If it's club sports, it doesn't matter. It's definitely important, yeah. Any volunteering is big. I feel like that's sort of like it's been streamlined and it applies to any graduate program, whether it's medicine or not. I have tons of friends who do IT, they're doing their PhDs or going ahead doing masters. I think volunteering is big, and it's part of our culture, it's part of our religion. Why not stress over it, talk about it,
Thank you. Of course. Definitely okay. Chris, I think you're up. Just to bring it home. Wait, no pressure.
No pressure at all.
I know it's been a 2-hour marathon, so almost thank you so much for being with us.
No problem. So just a brief introduction. Chris Staub. I've worked with a few members of the Sikh faith here over the last 23 years. I am a principal, well, I was, we sold the company. But so I was a principal in a firm called the Capital Group here in Bethesda, Maryland. We are a financial services firm. We manage retirement plans. We do wealth advisory. We also do employee benefits. 4 years ago, we partnered with a larger firm called the Baldwin Group. It's a nationally publicly traded company. Now, my job now is to run National Financial Services, where we manage over $21 billion for clients all over the country. So I have the fun job and travel all over the country, but I manage a bunch of different offices managing clients' assets and things of that nature. But my history has been growing up here. I can answer any questions that you have. I'll go through a couple of things, but just personally, just so you know, I have 4 kids. My oldest is a freshman in college at Duquesne University up in Pittsburgh. My second oldest is a senior in high school. Talking about sports, he's a big sports guy. He's a baseball guy. He's got recruited and will be playing college baseball. So I can answer questions about that. Then I have a 10th grader and I have an 8th grade student. So we've gone through all of the planning stages, are still saving for college, and now we're in the distribution stage now for kids. Thankfully, unfortunately, I'm not able to qualify for loans and things of that nature, so we've navigated college with scholarships, saving, and paying out of income as well. I will tell you that in my experience, you cannot save enough for college. Okay, I'll just throw out some numbers. So Duquesne University, Pittsburgh, very good school, not Ivy League, right? Not even a notch below Ivy League. It's $72,000 a year tuition, room and board. Okay, in a lot of private schools, if your kids or the kids that are here, if you have good grades, and it's very important, 3.5, sometimes even 3.0 and above, you kind of immediately are going to get a scholarship. You're going to get $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 scholarship. But if it's a $70,000 school, minus $25,000, still got $45,000 to pay, right? My daughter, as an example, is an occupational therapy major. That's where she is right now. She's a freshman. She's pre-entered into the 6-year program, PhD program, because that's what you kind of need as an OT. So her scholarship pays for the first 4 years, $25,000 a year scholarship, but year 5 and 6 will be the full boat. And by that point, it'll probably be $85,000 a year, right? So, just looking at that, you kind of can't save enough. I mean, it's just, some people just can't. And the question was how much you can put in. He talked about the limit. The limit in Maryland is right now $500,000 actually per account, but you can put in the gifting limits every year. So you put in $19,000 a year into an account. Anybody can. If you have one account for your child, you can double up if you're married, so you and your spouse can double that up. So you can put in $38,000 a year into a plan. With college savings, you can also accelerate 5 years of gifting. So if you're in a position where you can pre-fund a 529 plan, you can put in, whatever that math is, almost $200,000 up front and then let it grow, okay? The contributions that a family member makes into a plan does not count towards that. So what I tell clients a lot of times is you can have a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle make a contribution to that plan, and that doesn't count against what you can put in as an individual, okay? But in the financial plan that we do, one thing to keep in mind is if you're doing estate planning or things of that nature, if you put $19,000 into a 529 plan, you've now gifted to that child. So you can't gift in other ways through a trust or something like that from an estate planning standpoint. That's your annual gift. If you don't know the gifting rules, the IRS allows you to gift up to $19,000 per beneficiary without paying gift taxes. If you go above that, you have to eat into what's called your lifetime exclusion. So we won't go down there, but those are the gifting rules of what you can gift. And putting money into a 529 plan, you are actually gifting to your child. The child's the beneficiary, and you're the owner. You can transfer beneficiary at any time, but you cannot pull double beneficiary, or you can't pull out the same year for 2 different beneficiaries, typically, right? I will tell you from my standpoint, just kind of wrapping it up, or tying it all together, I guess. I think 529s are the best place to save for college, but having 4 kids, and mine are pretty close together, but I still have kind of separation. If my oldest were to say get a full ride, brilliant, get a full ride, maybe a sports scholarship or something like that, I can transfer beneficiary to the next in line or down to my youngest. I have 4 529 plans. Actually, I had 8 529 plans because I have 4 using the American Funds Virginia plan because I like those investment options. And then I have 4 on the T-Rowe Price plan as well, so I can get the tax deduction. The tax deduction in Maryland is $2,500 per contributing person. So if you and your spouse contribute, it's a $5,000 tax deduction on the Maryland side. Now, given Maryland taxes, if state and county, it's about 9% on average. If you're in Montgomery County, 9.25%. So 9.25% on $5,000 is what, $450 or something like that. You're not getting a lot, but you are getting some. To put that in there, I think 529 is the best. You can also use Roth IRAs, tax-free, because Roth IRAs are after-tax money and then tax-free distributions, but they're also tied to retirement. So if you're under 59.5, typically, if you pull that out, the gains are subject to a 10% penalty, but you can use Roth IRAs for college savings without paying the 10% penalty. So if you're under 59.5 and you want to pull it out with qualified expenses, you can use that as a vehicle as well. However, Roth IRAs are retirement vehicles, and you should probably think about using that for retirement. But that is another option. And then kind of the third is life insurance. I do agree having life insurance is a really good idea. Having permanent insurance makes sense. You have the same tax favored circumstances as you do with a 529. Maybe not all of your insurance is permanent, but maybe a piece of it, and then you have term for kind of satisfying the need. But I think of that as a self-completing plan, right? If you're not here to contribute to college, the insurance is there to self-complete the plan, okay? And then we can have that there. Obviously, there's insurance needs for everything else too: retirement, income replacement, debt, all that sort of stuff. But using those three make a lot of sense to me. Diversification of where your money is. If you fund, let's just say, you're going to fund for the Harvard education, 4 years. I want to take 200 grand and put them in 4 different 529s for my kids. It's going to grow over time. If you have money in a 529 that's not used for qualified education, it's taxable. The gain is taxable when you pull it out, plus a 10% penalty. Now, you think about, okay, 10% penalty. It could be substantial. If you have a couple $100,000 in gains, it could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in extra taxes you're paying. Having a diversified approach of having the bulk in 529, you're funding maybe a Roth, right, for your retirement. That's kind of a flex account if you needed to. Having some insurance as well could definitely help out and bring that out. The one thing about insurance you just want to be careful with is the distribution stage of insurance a lot of time are loans. So you're borrowing against it and you want to pay it back. And if you don't, the interest accumulates and then the death benefit at your death will pay for it. But it is an option. It's a piece of the overall puzzle when you're doing financial planning to kind of pull that together. The gentleman said before, working with an advisor like myself, and I don't do that anymore. I have folks in my office that kind of are the individual advisors, but working with one of our advisors, they're going to sit down, they're going to look at your current situation, and they're going to say, okay, I'm making this number up, but you have $3,000 a month of excess income. Here are your needs. You have retirement needs, you have education needs, you have protection needs, okay? What do you want to fund for? What's the most important? And let's kind of divide that $3,000 a month and figure out where we want to put the money. The difficult thing about college education, and I don't know the exact stats, but when I was, a couple of years ago, when I was kind of still advising clients, the inflation cost in education is like 6-7%, right? Something like that, 6%. If you are saving for college, you're more aggressive in the earlier years as your child's younger. You're less aggressive in the later years. And that's a very important point because we had clients that we obtained over the years, and they said, well, wow, when my kid was going to school in 2008 and I lost 40% of their college account because of the stock market. And my question is, why were you 100% in the equity markets when your kid was about to go to college? You have to move your diversified portfolio to more conservative instruments as the child gets closer. It is great to say, I'm going to buy this S&P 500 fund right now because I think it's the best way to go, but as the child gets closer to college and you forget about it, you don't reallocate at the right times, it is good to have an automatic process. So those portfolios that automatically adjust over time make a lot of sense. So that way you're not in a situation where your child's 17 years old, senior in high school, and we have a market correction and you lose 20 or 30% of the portfolio when you got to take it out next year. Or you got to take maybe a quarter of it out next year, right? So you want to have those portfolios automatically adjusted, and a lot of these programs have those vehicles to be able to do that. It makes a lot of sense to kind of do that. So, yeah, I'm here for questions.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, let's say you put all this money away for your kids, they decide they don't want to go to college. Can you use it for trade school and other education?
Yeah, so the qualified tuition expenses, you can look on the IRS website, it's tuition, room and board, trade schools, nursing school, any type of higher education above high school, okay? Also remember that in the Tax and Jobs Act that is expiring next year that probably the current legislation will renew, we're thinking in July. There was also provision that you could pull out $10,000 a year for high school education or for private school education. So you could use 529s not only for just college, but also for secondary and elementary education if they're in a private school. You can use it for room board, you can use it for any type of higher education, postgraduate work. The one thing people ask me about, because they try to game the system, is can I take that money and go buy a house near the kid's college? And that way, and they're living there, but it's a college expense. No, you can't do that. You can't use it for rent for off-campus housing. You can't use it for travel costs to and from college if it's a plane ticket. It has to be qualified expenses, which is typically tuition, room and board, anything you're paying to the college or university. The other thing to just note, and this actually is something that came up, and we all don't know everything, right? A couple of years ago, a client asked, can I not pull money out of the 529 now, pay for it with other resources, and then in 3 or 4 years, if I need it, pull it out from that expense? And the answer is no. You have to pull it out in the year that you incur the expense. So you can't use the 529 as kind of what if money. I'm going to incur the expenses and then eventually if I need money, I'll pull it out. Like, you can't do that. Because keep in mind that 529s are actually a very, very good legacy transition tool because they are tax-free. So if you put a bunch of money into 529s, it grows tax deferred, it comes out tax-free. Well, let's just say, you don't need it, you have other resources, you've done well, you've sold a business, whatever. You can take that money and you can change account ownership to your child, who can then use it for your grandchildren, and then it can kind of keep going that way too, right? So if you don't use it, it can continue to grow and grow and grow, and you can change beneficiaries down the road. So some people wanted to do that, but yeah, you can use it for any kind of qualified education. Like the gentleman said, you don't have a form you have to fill out. You don't get a 1099 or any type of tax form for pulling money out. But if you get audited, they're going to check. Okay, you pulled this money out of T. Rowe Price. Let me see your expenses. So keep your bills, keep your records of what you're pulling out when you're spending. It's very important. Okay. Yes, sir.
Did you say you cannot pay for so if your kids in college, they live in off-campus housing, that doesn't count?
That does not count. It's not a qualified tuition expense. Because you're paying a landlord. You're paying.
What's the penalty?
Well, the penalties, you could get audited, and you're going to owe taxes, penalties, and the IRS loves to charge this interest thing. That they don't, if they owe you money, they don't pay you interest. But if you owe that money, you got to pay some pretty hefty interest. So there's your.
I don't think you have to worry about it. They're not going to be ages left after next week anyway.
Very true. Very true.
So if the Roth IRA, like I said, is a retirement fund, that's what I should bid you at. How does that tie into then the college saver?
Well, it's just there's a provision that says you can pull money out of a Roth IRA, no tax and no penalty, because the Roth IRA is tied to your retirement age of 59 and a half. There's a 10% penalty if you pull it out prior to 59 and a half, or 5 years. There's a 5-year too. So if you put money in a Roth at 58, you have to wait 5 years before you pull it out. But there's a provision that says you can use it for qualified education and not pay that penalty or the taxes. So it's kind of a flex account that you can fund a Roth for extra expenses that may pop up that you don't have enough in 529s, and you can kind of use it as a flex account. Keep in mind that Roth contribution limits are $7,000 this year. They're also subject to income limitations. So I think it's $230,000 of joint income. If you make above that, you can't do it. But you can do what's called a backdoor Roth, right? And I can explain that. But a backdoor Roth is you do an after-tax IRA, and then you convert it to a Roth in the same year. There's no tax limitations. So you can get money into a Roth without, if you make more than 230 combined, okay, in a way. But then you can fund a Roth, and Roth's a great tool too. That it's tax-free. So
do they grow more compared to the Maryland 529? Is that right?
No, I mean, keep in mind all these accounts are kind of buckets. You invest the buckets, right? So Roth IRA, we can invest it with the same risk tolerance as we do with a 529. Typically, a Roth IRA, you have much more options to invest in. Because you could open up a Fidelity IRA and you could buy whatever you want. You could buy options, stocks, whatever. In a 529, you're limited to what those investment options are.
So you could take more riskier in a Roth.
Yeah, but I would never say use a Roth for college savings. But it could be extra possible.
Any other questions? All right. Is one more?
Yeah.
Let me, you wanted to.
So, I think just to tie it up, I just wanted to bring. Well, first of all, thank you, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was jumping into the next phase, but thanks for coming. And Navneet Riji wanted to just kind of give a live example, but he has gone through with Kripa. She's in med school now, and just kind of, I think he went through all the process. Just kind of give her like a 3 minutes, just kind of like I think what he went through, I think he will kind of share that and just kind of pick his brain on it. And anybody has directly any questions.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਮੇਰੇ ਵੀਰ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦਿਆਂ ਸਾਰ ਇੱਕ ਨੇ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਕਿ ਤੇਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਦੇ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਹੁਣ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਤੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ? ਮੈਂ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਤੋਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਲੈਣ ਆਈਦਾ, ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਸਾਂਝ ਵੀ ਕਰਨ ਆ ਜਾਈਦਾ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ 'ਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਲੈਸਨਸ ਲਰਨ। ਜਹਦਾ ਰਾਵਤ ਜਾਤ ਹੋ ਹਟ ਕੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਸੋ ਦਰ ਕੈਸੇ ਛੋੜੀਏ ਜੋ ਦਰ ਐਸਾ ਹੋਏ। ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਪਿਛਲੇ 2-3 ਸਾਲ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਉਹੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ। ਮੇਰੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਤਕਰੀਰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ 'ਚ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਜੀ, ਮੇਰੀ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਮਾੜੀ ਆ, ਸੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਦਿਓ। ਸੋ 2-3 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ, ਮੇਰੀ ਬੱਚੀ 9ਵੀਂ ਜਮਾਤ 'ਚ ਸੀਗੀ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਬਾਪੂ ਮੈਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬਣਨਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਬਣ ਲਓ। ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਪਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਪੜਾਓ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਚੰਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ। ਅਸੀਂ ਹਾਵਰਡ ਕਾਊਂਟੀ 'ਚ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਇਸ ਖਿੱਤੇ ਦਾ ਇਸ ਸਟੇਟ ਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵਧੀਆ ਕਾਊਂਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਧੀਆ ਸਕੂਲ ਦਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਜੋ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਾਇਆ, ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਆ। ਅਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਸੇ ਵੇਲੇ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਨਜਿੱਠ ਲਿਆ ਵੀ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਕੱਢਣਾ। ਸੋ ਲੌਂਗ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਸ਼ਾਰਟ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ 11ਵੀਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਾਲਜ ਪਾਤਾ। ਮੈਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਟੇਟ ਲਾਅ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਫੈਡਰਲੀ ਵੀ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੰਪ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ। ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਮਿਡਲ ਸਕੂਲ ਜਾਂ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ 'ਚ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਜੇਕਰ ਗਿਫਟਡ ਅਤੇ ਟੈਲੈਂਟਡ ਹੈਗਾ, ਉਹ ਬੱਚਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਕਾਲਜ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਕੋਰਸਿਸ ਲੈ ਸਕਦਾ। ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਵੀਰ ਭਾਈ ਸੱਜਣ ਆਏ ਆ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ 2-2 ਘੰਟੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਐਪਲੀਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਭਰਨੀ ਪੈਣੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟ ਵੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਣੀ ਹੈ। ਜੋ ਮੇਰੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਜੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਉਸ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਮਾੜੀ ਜੀ, ਮੇਰੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸੌਰੀ ਜੀ, ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਜੀ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉਹੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਜੀ, ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਜੀ। ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਮੈਂ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੀ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛ ਲਿਓ, ਮੈਂ ਆਪਕੋ ਸਮਝਾने की पूरी कोशिश करूँगा, ठीक है ना जी? चलो जी, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਸੀਗਾ? ਜੰਪ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਤੇ ਸੀਗਾ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ? ਸੋ ਉਹ ਐਸੀ ਸ਼ੈ ਹੈਗੀ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਐਪਲੀਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਭਰਨੀ, ਕਿਤੇ ਪੈਸੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣੇ, ਸਿਰਫ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵਾਪਸ ਹੀ ਆਉਣਾ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਮੁਫਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੀਤਾ। ਉਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਜੰਪ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਕੀਤਾ 11ਵੀਂ ਜਮਾਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਉਹ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਤੋਂ 11ਵੀਂ ਜਮਾਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਗ੍ਰੈਜੂਏਟ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਉਹ ਕਾਲਜ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹਦੇ 'ਚੋਂ ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਦਾ ਐਡਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਇਆ। ਸੋ ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਲਾਹਾ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਹ ਲਾਅ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ ਬੱਚਾ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਤੋਂ ਜਾਂ ਮਿਡਲ ਸਕੂਲ ਤੋਂ ਕਾਲਜ ਕੋਰਸ ਲੈਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ, ਉਸ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਮੁਫਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਕਰਾਉਣਗੇ। ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੈਸੇ ਦੇਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਸਟੇਟ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਵਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਜਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ 1000 ਜਾਂ 2000 ਲੱਗ ਜਾਏਗਾ, ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੂਰੀ ਐਡਵਾਂਟੇਜ ਲਓ। ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਸੀ। ਦੂਜੀ ਗੱਲ ਉਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਅਹਿਮ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿੱਖੀਏ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਛੱਤਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਆ, ਸਾਡੀ ਛੱਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਤਾਰੇ ਦਿਖਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੋਰਨ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਸਿੱਖੋ, ਕੋਈ ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਰਿਹਾ, ਕੋਈ ਜਰਮਨ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜੀ ਸੱਦ ਕੇ ਪੜ੍ਹੋ, ਜੀ ਸੱਦ ਕੇ ਸਿੱਖੋ, ਪਰ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਦੇ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲੋ। ਅੱਜ ਮੇਰੇ 'ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪੈ ਰਿਹਾ, ਕੋਈ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਬੋਲ, ਕੋਈ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹਿੰਦੀ, ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਟੈਗ ਕੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ 'ਚ ਬੋਲਾਂਗੇ, ਪਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਸਾਰੇ 'ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ, ਪਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਖਲੋਤੇ ਆ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਭਾਵ ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਟੇਟ ਆਫ ਮੈਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਲਾਅ ਆ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਬਾਇਲੈਟਰਲ ਸੀਲ ਆਫ ਲਿਟਰੇਸੀ। ਉਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਆ ਕਿ ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆ ਅਤੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਬੱਚਾ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਬੱਚਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਲੈਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਣੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਟਿਕਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਣਾ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਦੂਜੀ ਜ਼ਬਾਨ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹਦੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਫਾਇਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ। ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਦੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ, ਦੁਨੀਆ ਅੱਗੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸਾਡੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਨੇ 60,000 ਬੰਦਾ ਜੇਲ੍ਹਾਂ ਧੁਣਿਆ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਰਫ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਉਣ ਲਈ। ਮੈਂ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ, 70% ਦੀ ਆਬਾਦੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਸੀ, 42% ਬੋਲਦੀ ਆ। ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਬੱਚੇ ਕੁਚੇ ਘੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਇੰਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਪੈਰਾ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਬੋਲਣ, ਤੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਚੋਂ ਟੈਸਟ ਪਾਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਦੂਜੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਬਾਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਅੰਗਦ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵਰਤੀਏ। ਜੇਕਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਪੋਰਟ ਮਿਸ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਯੂਪੈਨ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਚਲਾਉਂਦਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਰਜਿਸਟਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਇਮਤਿਹਾਨ ਦਵਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦਾ ਇਮਤਿਹਾਨ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਜ਼ਬਾਨ ਨਾ ਲੈਣੀ ਪਏ। ਸੋ ਦੋ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ, ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ 'ਚ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਦੋ ਤਿੰਨ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਬਸ ਬੇਨਤੀਆਂ ਸਨ। ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਸਵਾਲ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਿਓ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ 'ਚ ਕਰਿਓ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਜ਼ਬਾਨਾਂ ਘੱਟ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ। ਹਾਂਜੀ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਥੋੜਾ ਉੱਚੀ ਬੋਲੇ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦਾ ਵੀ ਘੱਟ ਹੈ। ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਭਾਜੀ, ਇਹ ਨਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਾਲੇ, ਮੈਂ ਹਾਵਰਡ ਕਾਉਂਟੀ 'ਚ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ, ਉੱਥੇ ਮਿਸ ਬੈਂਕ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬੈਂਕ ਕਰਕੇ ਬੀਬੀ ਆ, ਕੈਨਰਾ ਬੈਂਕ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਨਾਂ ਆ, ਉਹ ਬੀਬੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਰਜਿਸਟਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੇਰੇ $30-40 ਤੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੀ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ, ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਇਮਤਿਹਾਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਦੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਦੋ ਨੇ, ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ਾਹਮੁਖੀ ਇੱਕ ਗੁਰਮੁਖੀ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰਮੁਖੀ ਆ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਹਾਂਜੀ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਸਵਾਲ? ਹਾਂਜੀ ਆਪ ਪੁੱਛੇ। ਹਾਂਜੀ आप सिर्फ गूगल करें, वो आप कौन सी काउंटी में? मंटगोमरी काउंटी? हाँ, मंटगोमरी काउंटी का जल्द स्टार्ट आ गया।
Is that the dual program? Is it the
dual program? It's called Jump Start in Housing.
Okay.
Dual. That is across the world. वो कोई भी कहीं भी चले जाए आपको मिले। Actually, all around United States. No, she didn't. But now you can. She didn't have to. She didn't even have to do that because she is in a medical program. उसको ज़रूरत नहीं. But most बच्चे जो UMD जाएंगे या UMBC जाएंगे, they'll have to have it. So it's mostly for those folks who need it. ठीक है?
It doesn't have to be one of those that comfort in
हाँ.
we could use our own language.
बिल्कुल. हिंदी आती है तो हिंदी में करो, उर्दू आती है तो उर्दू में करो. They have 50 languages. You can pick any. Sure. मेरी बेटी जा रही है नोवा, साउथ ईस्टर्न है. It's a dual program जिसमें आपको बैचलर्स एंड आपकी डॉक्टर डिग्री इकट्ठी देते हैं आफ्टर 8 years. Yes.
हमारा टेंथ में he also wants to pursue medicine. So मैं
Sure. Absolutely. कोई और सवाल?
If you ever need to check anything in the future, I'll forward his phone number, email, everything to you.
CNN देगा. So how? हाँ जी बहन.
Video is going to be uploaded. I'll share it on YouTube and I'll send the link whoever requests it. All of this will be shared.
चंगा जी, वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह.
Again, both Tanwat and thank you so much. You know, despite everybody worried about the snow, Chris, you know, appreciate it. You know, everybody else, you took time out. Hopefully, you got to learn something. This is our third annual Sikhi and me. We'll continue to do it annually. You know, with God's grace. You know, and then hopefully we get to learn something every year. So, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.